Even in all, let me look at that little picture. Yeah, I know, terrible, terrible picture. Worst intro ever. Oh, I do apologise for that. There is a reason we're doing less showy intros all the time. It's only because we want to do more Dust videos. We're playing a lot of it actually now, so it's kind of it's testing my theory and statement that I'm only going to do one more series of Dust and this is it. It's testing that to the limit because I think we're already at like number 21, etc. So anyway, today we're going to talk a bit more about the controller. We're going to talk about other things that are going on within the Dust sphere of influence, and I think really today is also just a general look at something a bit different. This, namely, kind of the different guns that you can use with the controller. Now, I'm not saying you can't use guns without control. If you use mouse and keyboard, you're just going to have a bad time. Not at all. I think if you're good, and there's lots of good players in this game who do play with the the mouse and keyboard, and they play with guns like the combat rifle, the scrambler rifle, and so on. And if you do, then GG to you, BRO, because that I'm impressed. I'm not a particularly great shot with mouse and keyboard in Dust. And that's because the mouse and keyboard controls in Dust don't feel great. Okay, now that's my opening statement. Let me back that up with some evidence. When you play games on the PC, and you play obviously just exclusively with mouse and keyboard, like PlanetSide and Call of Duty and Battlefield 4, all that, on PC I mean, these are games where the controls feel very fluid, they feel very quick, they feel very good. And I think, again, combined with the hardware of the PC, there's a very good mixture and therefore speed, FPS, etc. On the PlayStation, which is not meant to really use the keyboard and mouse, I think in Chromosome they were very good. In Uprising they're not, and I think that's pretty much my closing statement. It is a shame. It would be nice if they worked a bit better, but I think sadly they don't. I think really these kind of games, you just have to pick your poison at the end of the day. There has to be downsides to each, and I think the ability to strafe and evade is good with mouse and keyboard. The auto assist aim, and then just generally I think your general gun game is going to be quite better with the controller. I think they have improved the controller controls. Try saying that quickly. Definitely since the game came out, and I know there was a lot of work to, I think, perfect them. It's kind of good. I mean, again, I can't really say much more than that. I think the reality is that there's a lot of things that generally always going to have problems with, and you always want to try and change and make better, etc. And I think controls is always going to be one. How the game plays, how the game feels, because you could just change one or two things and then you've changed almost the entire game's feel. And that's obviously quite dangerous. It's like a car. If you change a car's drive and ride, people notice. They've done this numerous times with mouse and keyboard, because I remember the days of when I used to shotgun with mouse and keyboard, and it was pretty good. I wouldn't say it was overpowered, but it was good. You could shotgun with it. You could treat it like an equivalent here would be Battlefield 4, the prison level. Do you know what I mean? I can't remember what it's called, but it's in this prison somewhere in Siberia, and it's kind of an ideal shotgun map. You can run around corners, you can have your shotgun ready, blap, 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 dead. And you felt like you could do it. Whereas now I feel the mouse and keyboard is so inaccurate. And there's almost kind of like a sensory delay on mouse and keyboard when using things like shotgun. It's kind of annoying. So this is why area of effect guns have been such a big thing for me lately, because it's not really possible to aim with any, I guess, confidence. That has changed. I think certainly when it really comes down to, I think, again, what kind of gun you use. But I think over time, that's kind of changed. Again, I'm being a bit woolly here because I know there's been kind of periods where people have said the controllers have gone haywire. They just haven't worked. So post in the comments, tell me what you think. Should they, just as a thought, maybe just completely remove controller, or rather mouse and keyboard completely? Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know. It just feels like it's almost a kind of a strange thing that they try to keep the control going. Personally, I probably would. I would maybe say it's time just to kind of cut your losses. But I don't know. Post in the comments, tell me what you think. So, moving on to other things. I think Dust is it's an interesting kind of time to see what's going to happen with FanFest. Now, we touched on this in the last video, so I'll extend on that a bit by saying if they don't do anything about Dust or even anything about Legion, surely that means that then there is no plan to release Legion in 2015. Ooh, that's a bit of a that's a bit of a controversial one, isn't it? I'm just thinking. I mean, again, if you think about it, if Legion was going to be released this year, wouldn't you use the company's annual event to announce it? Wouldn't you use the company's annual event to talk about it, to introduce the alpha, to talk about open beta? Any of these things? No, probably not. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to think they would, but it does appear that they're not going to talk about Dust. It certainly doesn't appear that they're going to talk about Legion. I could be wrong, for all we know. But there we go. So, you know, they're not really inspiring people to come to FanFest from the Dust sphere. Again, I think a shocking lack of interest in the community once more, but you know, is it wrong? Probably not. If they don't have anything to show, it would be even worse if they got you over there. So, you know, I can kind of understand it, and I think it'll be a shame to feel that there is not going to be anything worth seeing there if you're into Dust and Dust alone. I'm sure they'll talk about many of the other things and the future-proofing, the future events of EVE, which will include some form of on-the-ground activity, because that has always been front and centre to EVE. But I'm curious to see how they're going to do it. I don't know. I'm not really going to kind of worry too much about it either. I think, you know, it will be what it is, and I think that's the only way you can be with these things. You know, let's just see what they come up with, and let's see how it plays. I suspect that, you know, there's going to be a lot of talk about Valkyrie. I think Valkyrie is their kind of their interesting product of the time. It is a good product. I think it's nice. I think I like the idea of it. I think I can see the merits certainly of VR games. I think it could well be the only VR game that's coming out relatively soon that's purposely designed to be VR. And I think it's going to be interesting. So, you know, I'm curious. I want to know more about it. I probably won't play it because it's not really my cup of tea. And again, Elite is fun. I like Elite. And I think Elite has got the depth that I want. It could do with a bit more, but it's probably there. Whereas I think Valkyrie is just going to be a dogfighting simulator. And I think if that's all it is, that's quite an expense just to play a dogfighting simulator. I'm sure it's beautiful. I'm sure it'd be gorgeous, but what's the point? I'd rather play Dust with a VR. I mean, quite honestly, playing Dust with VR, that'd be pretty fun, wouldn't it? Oculus Rifting it up. But there we go. Who knows? I think at the moment, you know, you just have to take what you can from it. I'm curious to see where on earth Dust is going, more so than any other game. I don't really have much of an interest in EVE either anymore, even though I'm fabulously wealthy and fabulously equipped in EVE in all senses of the word. I have no desire to play it, and I do honestly mean that. EVE to me, EVE is dead to me, because I know it's a great game, I know it's a brilliant game, but it's kind of an old game now, and I think Elite is just so good, and Elite has the momentum of the younger game, and it has the, you know, the new game feel and smell about it, and I think that's what people like and want. And I honestly would worry, and I do worry, that EVE is just going to kind of peter out a bit, you know? I mean, I can't see where it's going. I can't see what they're really trying to do with it. I don't know. Post in the comments, tell me what you think. So there we go. I think FanFest is going to be an interesting one. If you're going to get the stream, then good on you. I would probably suggest watching the stream, seeing how it goes, and then, you know, if you enjoy it, great. If you don't, well, you didn't go. But I think, you know, to be honest, there is going to have to be something said, otherwise it's just going to come across as very, very odd. And I kind of implore CCP to have something in there, even if it's just a talk, you know, off the main stage, anything really, because otherwise you're just going to have no point for anybody from Dust, you know, world to go. And I think that's kind of bad. But anyway, what can you do? Gosh, that was a lot of waffle about FanFest, wasn't it? Jeez. I mean, crikey. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about how fun it is to storm a barn, as we call it, a hangar, when everybody's on top of it. Woo! Oh, this game is fun. It is good. I mean, I really hope this game succeeds. I hope it continues. I think there's so much fun to be had from this game. And I think, you know, there's going to be plenty more to come, at least for the next 6 months. I feel that, you know, your security in the game is there. I think, and again, I think it's only because Legion isn't greenlit. It doesn't look as if they're going to do Legion at the moment. I could be wrong, but it does feel that way, and I think this is why it's probably a good thing for a Dust player, because it does mean your game isn't going to disappear overnight. It also means that you're probably going to have a bit of a challenge with the longer term game. So just bear that in mind. I think there's a lot of good stuff, you know, coming down the pipe towards it. Personal MCC upgrading is an interesting one. The ability to maybe do planetary raids, the planetary kind of aspect of it is nice. I think there's always a shame that they don't have the balls to do game modes that do require people to be online at that moment. I always thought when Dust came in and Planetary Conquest came in, I always thought it would be an instant thing. You get a group of people together, you attack a region, and basically, yes, there could be a lot of matches where nobody turns up, but if they don't turn up, they lose everything. And I always like that. I always think there should be some form of ping pong towards it. Now, I don't mean they lose the district. That should be something that you have the ticket system for. So, you know, I want to attack your district. You've got 24 hours to defend. If you don't defend, you've got one more chance, then you're done. That is a fair system. But I like the idea of raiding it and stealing everything from it. So that district is worthless for a week, or worthless for 3 days, or whatever. Because then there's a reason that people have to defend. And yes, you could have a situation where, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 people are trying to defend against 6 or more. But I think that's exactly the kind of gameplay you need. I hate this 16v16 bollocks. It's always got to be fair. It's like literally they're trying to make the UN here. War, if you find yourself in a fair fight, you planned it wrong. And CCP used to believe in this. EVE was all about this. Fair fights? What's that then? Is that a concept from Sun Tzu? Nobody gives a shite about that. And that's exactly what people don't want. They want to have a difficult game the way you could be completely screwed over. Owning territory has to have some downsides. And at the moment, it doesn't feel as if there's any. Okay, yes, you're attacked, but you can prepare for it. You've got plenty of time. I like the idea of literally you're just able to log on and go and beat the crap out of someone for something, for whatever. And I like that actually people, if they want to stop you stealing their stuff, they have to kind of put some defense against you. Either, let's say they could prepare turrets. Let's say they could decide where to put 20 turrets that you then have to deal with. I don't know. That could be fun. But it should be something like that. Think Clash of Clans here, for God's sake. The idea of Clash of Clans is, no, you can't always defend, but you build a defense structure. And I think that could be maybe what they should have done. I don't know. It just feels like there's such a missed mechanic there. I'm sure it's almost impossible to program and do, but hey, that's not what I do. But I just feel that they could have made such a kind of interesting gameplay mechanic, which is brutal. So people would kind of talk to each other and say, oh, I play this game called Dust 514. And they'll be like, oh, really? What's that? And it would be like people used to say about DayZ. They would say, it's the toughest fucking game you'll ever play. And they'd be like, what? Why would you play that? And it's like, because it's tough. And you could say, look, you can own a district, but somebody could just turn up and start raiding you at any moment. And if there's nobody there, they'll just sit and earn millions off you. And you'd be like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Anything which has an incredible harshness to it, I think gets talked about. And then when people talk about it, word of mouth comes into play. And then all of a sudden you've got hundreds and thousands of people who probably want to log into this game and play it and experience it. DayZ was exactly the same. It's a hard game, it's tough, it's unforgiving, one bullet can kill you, you may never see your killer, blah, blah. And it's like people were just blown away by that. And I think if you don't include that, then I think you're missing a trick. And I think, yes, we can make lobby shooters like this, where it's 7v7 or 16v16, and everything's nice and fair, but people, I think, get bored of this. There you go. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.